Hello there. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about paradigms. Recently, in the last couple of days, I was speaking to a good friend of mine, Tony Leckish, and we were talking a little bit about paradigms, and he progressed to tell me of a relative of his, how they picked up a particular. And I thought I would share that here today. And basically, it was a case of that he found somebody was putting a ham in the oven. And whilst they're putting the ham in the oven, or before they were just about to put the ham in the oven even, they decided to cut off the corners. So they cut off the four edges of it and slipped it into the oven. So their partner or husband turned around and said, "Why are you putting the ham in the oven by cutting the corners off?" And she said, "Well, that's just the way it is." And he says, "But what's the reason?" She says, "I don't know." So they decided to pick up the phone and ring her mum. So she picked up the phone and rang her mum. And she said to her mum, "Do you mind me asking you? I've noticed before that you used to, when you're putting the ham in the oven, you used to cut the edges off, the four corners." And she says, "Yeah, that's right." She says, "Do you mind me asking you why you do that?" And her mum answered by saying she didn't know. So she decided to ring her mum. So now we're going to the third generation. And she had rang up her mum and said to her, "Do you mind me asking you? We're here, and my daughter's putting the ham in the oven, and she's cutting the edges off. And she's seen me do it, of which I seen you do it. And can you please tell me what was the reason behind why you cut the edges off?" And her mother turned around and said the reason why she cut the edges off the ham was because the ham wouldn't fit in the oven. She had to cut the edges off to make it fit into the small oven that she had. But yet, here is a classic example of a paradigm, or how a paradigm is formed through generations. Because this is how we grew up. This is where we have adapted our paradigms and our beliefs and our behaviors and our habits. And it's all down to where we may have seen something happen and seen it happen on a regular basis, and then we adapt it. And as a result of that, we found then it becomes our paradigm. But the same thing applies to everything in our life. It's not just the ham in the oven. It's not just something that, we might have seen our brothers, our sisters, or our mum, or our dad, or our aunts, or our uncles do. It's actually everything. Because when you look at maybe the results in your life, or what it is that you want to do, you may not be doing that because you have adapted these paradigms. You've adapted a belief that's not allowing you to do it. So it could be where you think about something and the emotion and feeling attached to that comes into play. So it doesn't allow you to move forward. So it's a bit like, say, for argument's sake, a sales rep. Somebody that's trying to sell you something. You automatically think about they could be sleazy or they're just trying to get money out of you. But if you actually step outside that and look at it and say, well, they may be selling you something that you actually need. Well, why? Because it might get you to what you want. So it might actually cause or create a different scenario or outcome for you. So that's why when we talk about the oven and we talk about the ham in the oven and how it went through the generations, that's how we pick up our paradigms. And of course, when we look at our current lives and we want to change our lives for the better, we want to make more income, or we want to generate revenue, or we want to get more customers or clients. Well, generally, it's down to your paradigms. If you find that you may be in a stuck scenario, so you're where you can't get yourself outside of this situation, or maybe you're looking at the shiny object all the time and you find that you do it and nothing changes, well, again, this is back down to your paradigm. It's because your beliefs, your behaviors, and more than likely you've created a paradigm around it, so you're stuck within that. And in order to get outside of that, you need to change the paradigm. Change the paradigm and change your life. So when you actually look at what the paradigm is or the cause of it, so maybe look at what your current habits are. And if you adapt a new habit to replace the old habit, well, then you can start to see the results change. And of course, there are many different things that you can add to that as well that can help get you the results that you want. But start off with the paradigm. That's the first thing. I came across recently where somebody, are in selling products, but they weren't selling enough products. And when we found out why. It was down to where they just didn't want to call people. So they weren't making enough phone calls to sell enough products. So they were never going to sell the products. Why? Because they had a fear of what somebody was going to say to them on the phone. They had a fear of being rejected. So, of course, that was a paradigm. And because of that, it stopped them from getting outside the normal paradigm that they have. So, as I said, if it is something that you want, well, then you have to look at what your current paradigms are and then seek to change them and introduce a new paradigm to replace the old one to allow you to get the results that you want. So again, if you like what I have said, please do comment below. If you don't like what I've said, I would love your views or your comments below also. Because what it does is it'll give us, I suppose, a good or a bad reason why you did or did not like what we had to say. So please do comment below. If you like it, just say yes. If you don't, well, please share your views.